Leaders, influencers, followers, and fools. We're going to talk about them today on the Mission 29 podcast. Welcome back, my friends. I want to start with a huge apology for missing the May episode. I have no excuses, only priorities, and I did deprioritize the May edition. So you didn't miss it. I did. It's all on me. My apologies. I want to talk to you today about why I wrote the book Leading Jesus. This is a not for sale copy right here, but the 5 leadership expressions. I want to make sure that everybody understands who this book is for. And one of the things that I would need to address to do that is the idea of leadership, because what we've done today is we've taken leadership and given it an extremely narrow definition, and that is that someone that has followers, right? Now remember, we're talking about leaders, influencers, followers, and fools. We're going to get to all of those in just a moment. I hope to keep this short. You know, I don't script these particular moments, but I do have in mind and in my heart what I want to share with you. So in the book, I point out that everyone is a leader. And my simple understanding of that is just looking at God's original design with Adam and then Eve in the garden. God made the human race to be the leaders of this world. And so somehow we have turned it into something else. Like we always do, we tend to stack and try and get ahead of each other. Just like the story of 2 people wanting to sit on the left and the right of Jesus in heaven. They totally missed Jesus' role and position in the kingdom between God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. And I'm not going to delve into those specific things. You can check that out, look into that, and grow more in your own faith and in your own theology on your own time. And so I want to address a few things here about being a leader that a lot of people maybe won't pick up the book because it says 5 leadership expressions, right? I hope that you're curious what the 5 leadership expressions are through Jesus in his time and his human body on this earth before he gave his life so that we could be born again. I want it to interest you because I think you are a leader, even if nobody's following you. I really do love our modern day guru of leadership, John Maxwell's definition. He says, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. That has probably been the most said statement out of his own mouth, out of a lot of other leaders' mouth. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And I really do agree with that. This is going to come across that I don't, but I really do agree with that. The thing is that words change over time and how we view them change over time. And the idea of influencing has become something different in our day and age. Years and years ago, I was a youth pastor, and I remember, when I grew up, a pimp was a terrible thing. It was someone that took advantage of the ladies and harmed them. And it was just a negative in every sense of the word to be a pimp. And that's how I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. But come into the 90s, and someone had begun to change that word to use it as another meaning. I'll never forget this short story I love to share. We're driving back into the church. I'm driving. My pastor is in the passenger seat, and one of our teenagers is in the back seat. I'll never forget Leon saying this. He goes, "Man, Pastor Russ, your ride is pimp." I knew what he meant. He meant that my ride was fine. It was a nice vehicle. And I remember my pastor just looking over at me with big eyes. And Pastor Cecil, I really hope that you're participating, watching this right now, because he looked over at me and I said, "I'll explain later. He didn't mean it the way that it sounds." And when I explained it later, it was all good. But I tell that story just to illustrate the way that we view words differently. Something that had been terrible for just ever, really still was if you used it in that context, but in another context, it had a different meaning. And so that's where I come to talking about influence, right? We're talking about leaders, influencers, followers, and fools. And so the influence idea today has really changed. Social media, just like this, has changed the game of what an influencer is. I think a leader can have influence, but what I see the influencers doing is not leading, they're doing it for themselves. The biggest difference you're going to find between a leader and an influencer is a leader does what they do on your behalf. They want you to be better. They really take the mantle, the responsibility seriously. From Ephesians chapter 4, especially starting in verse 11, it talks about the apostle, the prophet, the evangelist, the pastor, the teacher, and all of those are leadership gifts, graces, expressions. A lot of people call this the fivefold ministry, and we talk about those a lot, but we skip out on the last part, which is the goal of what all of those are for, and that the goal is that we all come to the same knowledge and understanding of Jesus. It's to bring everyone up to the same level, and somehow, just as humans in our sinful nature, we manage to re-level things, right? Just like everybody, because the apostles listed first, the apostles over everybody, and we turn it into a governmental structure, and we want to govern rather than lead. And I think this is the real key difference that people are returning to. This is not a new idea. This is just going back to more of the original thought process, the original understanding of what these roles and functions were doing. We turned them into offices, we gave them badges and gave them, assistants and different things like this. And we treat apostles and teachers completely differently. And yet they're also critically important to the leadership structure of the church. And I want you to recognize that even though you may not have people following you, there's somebody following you, there's somebody paying attention to you, but there's so many other ways to lead. And that's one of the reasons that I put this book together, so that you could see these 5 leadership expressions, not levels, but leadership expressions, and see them through Jesus. That way we're not comparing to another person that has ever lived. We're comparing to the greatest leader that ever lived, Jesus Christ himself. And so if we take it from there, we don't have to worry about a poor comparison. We're taking it from where we should. And so the difference you'll see in a leader is they do everything they do on your behalf because they want you to come to their level. If nothing, honestly, they want to slingshot you past where they are. The best leaders that I have ever and currently have in my life, their goal is obvious. It's to bring me at least, as long as I'm willing, to bring me at least to the same understanding that they have of Jesus, to have the same revelation, to have the same clarity and vision and all of these things. And even more, I mentioned Pastor Cecil, I really hope you're watching, to slingshot me past them. And so I've taken that same example, and when I lead, my goal is to get people at least to where I am. And if I can, if they are willing to actually use that momentum as they come up, to slingshot them around me and get them out ahead of me so that they can be a better leader than I am. And so that's the really key element I think you'll see in good leadership. Yes, there's people that follow bad leaders, but you don't want to follow a bad leader. The other thing is on the influencer side, just pay attention. Influencers do what they do on their own behalf. They're looking for their own wins. They're looking for their own return on the investment of that influence. A leader is not looking necessarily for a return. They're looking for the advantage, right? They're looking to inspire you, not just influence you. I think that's one of the things that came into my mind when I was thinking about talking about this little subject here. And it's not a small subject. Some of you are going to be very upset at me and disagree with me, and that's okay. I just want to give you an opportunity to rethink it, give you something to rub against the things that you've been thinking for so long and see what happens, see what gets sharpened, okay? Let that iron sharpen iron. That's what I'm trying to do. But an influencer will do what they do in an attempt to influence you. A leader will try and inspire you. It's a very different situation. Now, so we talked about leaders, talked about influencers. We're going to talk about followers and fools. You're like, I don't want to be a fool. Don't call me a fool. I'm not going to call you a fool. But I want you to think about this. So many of you listening to me at this moment may think, well, I'm not a leader. I'm a follower. And that's key. That's obvious because nobody's following me. And so if nobody's following me, I believe the saying goes, if nobody's following you, you're not a leader. You're just out for a walk. And again, it's that single divisive measurement of you must have people following you in order to be a leader. And I want you to get the book. I'm not trying to get rich off the book. I'm not going to get rich off the book. I'm pretty sure so far I probably made about half a cent per hour for my investment of putting this book together and other things to try and let you know about it. It's just the best medium that I could give you this information, even better than this, to be completely honest. But I want you to realize that, yes, there is a part of us that is always a follower. Because if we're not following after Jesus, then we're going the wrong direction for sure, even if it's just off by a couple degrees. If Jesus is not square in front of us, then we're not walking the same direction, which means we're not leading ourselves, we're not leading anything else or anybody else the same direction. And so that is the leadership, that's the leader, the influencer, the follower. Now let's talk about the fool. The fool is just a person that's been fooled, somebody that's had the wool pulled over their eyes. So many people have been told for so long. This is actually where the leaders are culpable, because for over 100 years, since the circuit riding preachers started going from town to town and nobody could even meet, nobody could do anything until the preacher came to church. Again, we made these hierarchical levels, and it goes further back than that. Even we've been doing this for all of time. We've been trying to get one up on everybody and get ahead of everybody to make our own life better in some way. And so the fool is just the person that's been fooled. And so I don't want you to be fooled anymore into thinking that your only place is to put your butt in a seat, to sit down, shut up, and pay up. I want you to be a part of the body. I want you to be at your local church on Sunday morning. I want you to put your butt in that seat. I want you to put some money in that offering. I want you to do those things. But because you are part of the body of Christ, you're not obligated to do those things. It's a get to. You don't have to do those things. You get to do those things. When I think about what I do with my life on Sunday mornings, what do I get to do? I get to go and hang out with other believers and learn more and grow more and hopefully contribute more. But I want you to consider leading Jesus, the 5 leadership expressions of Jesus that he lived and he exemplified. And just let me know. I'd love to know what you think about what I've written in this book. I hope that it'll challenge you. I hope that it'll encourage you. I hope that it'll inspire you. I hope that it will help you discover, this is the most important thing right here, to discover how to leverage your life in the continuing legacy of Jesus. A lot of us today have gotten into, I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a legacy. I don't want to leave a legacy. I want to live a legacy. And I don't want to live my legacy. I want to live Jesus's legacy, because his story, with mine as a part of it, all of us, our stories combined are part of his story, which is his legacy, which is what's really important. I hope today's podcast has helped and encouraged you. If it has, let me know in the comments. Get with me one way or another where you're watching this, and I would love to hear from you.